Hi, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to be here as we get ready to dive into a topic that we hear referenced all the time. And it seems like the most obvious thing in the world, except for the question is, how do destination weddings work?
If you crave luxury but need guidance, then stay tuned for magic. Welcome to Wedding Tips and Tales with TS Wed, the podcast where we unveil the secrets to crafting the perfect luxury wedding. Join us for expert advice and insider tips that will make your special day unforgettable. Let's make your wedding dreams come true together.
Yeah. Everybody wants to know.
Everybody wants to know. It sounds exciting and it sounds
Daunting,
exotic
probably.
And daunting and all the things. And how do they work? So we're going to take a little bit of time to tell you the two main things that go into what makes a destination wedding work, and a couple of tips that we might have about how to make your wedding destination work. And
Yeah, that sounds great. First, most importantly, what are you drinking today?
Today, I am drinking butter Chardonnay. It is a staple. Did anyone know that butter Chardonnay is made by Rombauer?
And this is not an ad.
No, I don't get paid for this at all, but I wish I did. Rombauer,
Well, call us.
call me. I'm really good with your butter Chardonnay. No, it's fantastic. It's a full-bodied Chardonnay, and it's great for people that used to drink red and then got too old and started getting heartburn. It is what it is.
But if you're young and vibrant like I am, you can still drink red wine.
Don't worry. Your time will come. What are you drinking?
Honestly, I don't know. It's a red blend from
doesn't know.
Target.
It is. I picked it.
It was pretty.
I picked the prettiest label. It looked just like Dave.
It's yummy.
Yeah.
Don't ask me about wine. Here we go.
All right.
So
How do destination weddings work?
the most important thing, and we're maybe a little bit biased,
Just a skosh.
but you need to have a wedding planner.
You have to have not just a wedding planner. You have to have a destination wedding planner. A wedding planner that specializes in destination weddings. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be a destination wedding planner that services worldwide like we do. But if you are traveling to your location and or the majority of your guests are traveling to a location, you need to be working with a professional that understands the nuanced concerns, specifics, questions, challenges, all the things that go along with that.
And they don't necessarily have to have done weddings in that location before,
No,
but they
certainly
have to have done destination weddings. So you want someone who understands what it means to have traveling involved, especially if we're going international. Like, what does it mean crossing borders and taxes and all of that sort of thing that as a couple you don't want to have to worry about whatsoever. You want a planner who's going to worry about that for you and who knows about that, who knows what to tell their vendors and which vendors to pick and all of that sort of thing. So you want someone who's really knowledgeable in that area.
Right. And you want someone that's going to understand, like I was saying a little bit earlier, and not to rewrite the book, but like there are challenges. There are challenges associated for you. There are challenges associated with your guests. There are challenges associated with your vendors with a destination wedding. Even if you're hiring all vendors from the area. So for instance, if you are hosting your wedding in Lake Como and we're only bringing 3 vendors from the US and everybody else is from Lake Como, those Lake Como vendors still need to know how to address and function within the scope of a destination wedding because there's going to be a language barrier. There are going to be just differences in terms of the expectation for the flow of events because you're not Italian and Italians do it a little bit differently than Texans do it. So having vendors as a whole, but especially a wedding planner that really does understand what questions to ask, how to be flexible on site and throughout the wedding planning process, and how to best accommodate somebody that has cultural differences from you and your guests, super duper important.
Well, and if you're going to do a destination wedding, you're going to have guests that are probably traveling sometimes maybe for the first time. Maybe they're people that, have never left their hometown before and now they're traveling for the first time. Or even if they're well traveled, they're going to ask you a million questions as a couple about that location. And so you're going to have a lot on your plate with just your guests. Let somebody else take on all of the other things that you really need. So let that wedding planner do it. And we have...
I was going to say on top of that, if you have access to a travel planner, preferably that specializes in travel planning for wedding groups, that is a game changer. It is the best thing ever. Obviously, again, we're wildly biased, but we partner with the most exceptional travel planner. Her name is Britta Heath Travel. She's featured prominently on our website, and you're going to see her tagged in almost every single Instagram post that we put out there because once we found her, we wouldn't let her go. She is sensational because not only does she understand the nuance of travel planning and the whole wide world that encompasses, but also she understands the nuance of destination weddings. And so she's able to marry those two. See what I did? Marry. I'm clever. And make it just such a cohesive experience that incorporates your wedding flawlessly.
And not to be wildly blunt, but like as wedding planners, our priority is
the events and the events
and the vendors and all of those things. It's not the guests. Well, it's just not. Like, we want the experience for the guests to be amazing, and that is what we are creating, but that is what we're focused on. We're focused on creating and cultivating this, like, beautiful event for the guests. We're not worried about the guests' flight patterns.
Correct. So, like, the last thing you want to do to your wedding planner is say, hi, could you please take the phone? It's my mother-in-law, and she's at the airport and can't figure out how to get a transfer to her Airbnb. That's not what we do. Like, yes, we want to help you, except for that by doing that, you're taking us away from what you actually hired us for as wedding planners. And so being able to have somebody on site or accessible to your guests, whether your travel planner is in fact on site or just simply accessible, tremendously helpful.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that you have to manage the, like, travel coordinator yourself. Your planner can do that, but having somebody whose focus is the guests' arrival, their transportation, what hotels they're staying at, how they're getting from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm. Priceless.
Yeah.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
So that is the first part of the destination wedding process as a whole, is what is a destination wedding? What?
So do that.
So yeah, do that. Get a professional destination wedding planner, preferably that has a destination travel planner associated with her or him. That'll be hugely, hugely helpful.
Yeah, that's tip number 1.
Tip number 2, because what is it? It's a destination wedding. So we've already discussed the planning. Now we discuss the destination.
Yeah. Location.
Location. So much depends on the location. So there's a whole wide world, right? We all know this. The world is astronomically huge, and there are a bazillion gorgeous, gorgeous places where you could host your event.
And you can get lost in looking at them all.
Completely.
I mean, lost.
Oh, yeah.
There's amazing spots wherever you go. There's going to be a spot that is stunning and amazing and gorgeous and all the things. So, like, how do you
narrow it down? Yeah. How do you narrow it down? And how do you do so intelligently when considering the fact that you're not just picking a location, you're picking a wedding location?
So I think there's 2 things that come to mind as a couple picking a location. You can either pick a location that has meaning to you already, or, which is rarer, I think, is to pick a location that has no meaning to you and make the wedding be that location's meaning.
Correct.
So you're creating a space that maybe you've never gone to before. I'm thinking of one of our sweet friends who got married, who we did their wedding in Paso Roble. Oh. They had never been.
Yes.
They had no connection with California, no connection
and
with
they wanted that on purpose. They were very intentional. They said, we want a destination wedding because they wanted it a little bit smaller, and they wanted to gift their guests with a once-in-a-lifetime experience. But they wanted it to be somewhere where they'd never been before because they wanted that to be exclusive for their wedding memory. It was their wedding place.
They wanted that, that is the only memory they wanted associated with that place. So it would be forever and always to be like, oh, Paso Roble, we love it, we got married there. Mm-hmm. And not, oh, I grew up going there and we got married there. They wanted it to be the exclusive. So either way, you're either picking a place that has some sort of meaning to you, whether family-wise, if you have Japanese heritage and you want to get married in Japan, or if it's just something brand new and that you're wanting to explore something brand new. So I think exploring that is going to immediately limit down at least some of your options.
Yeah, that's correct. And then I think that it's really important as you are considering you're funneling, right? You're funneling your list of places. Okay. As you're considering the funnel, you got to consider logistics. And this is commonly forgotten. You have to consider, how far away am I and my guests from the nearest airport? What kinds of accommodations are there? What kind of transportation is there? Is there anything to do for these people besides the events that I am putting together for them?
Because then that'll dictate whether or not you should put together a lot of events for them, which is going to raise your budget, or if it's okay to say, hey, we're only doing a welcome drink in the wedding, here are other things you can do in the area.
Right.
But if you're having guests fly from wherever to wherever, you need to provide them with opportunity to do things, to accomplish things, to get to see that space that you're in.
Right, and I think we've seen this done really well. I'm thinking specifically of Barcelona.
Yeah.
We had a couple who picked Barcelona. We picked a venue just outside of the city. So their guests were able to come in. They were able to stay at the villas and all the good stuff outside of the city. But a 20-minute drive in, you were all of a sudden in the heart of Barcelona, and there's everything in the entire country to do there. It's amazing. And so they did exactly that. They had just a rehearsal dinner and a wedding day, and it was absolutely epic. And people came and stayed for like a week, though.
Because it's Barcelona, so guests could do whatever they wanted on their other days. So they weren't just flying just for the wedding. They were flying to experience Barcelona and have the wedding,
Right.
which is a great experience. On the flip side.
Oh. This is tied. I'm going to say tied. This story you're going to tell is tied for one of our top 3 worst wedding experiences of the last 5 years. As a planner. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Top 3, 5 years.
The thing is, so the couple and the groom's family chose this location because they had grown up going there. The groom's family had always vacationed in this location, and so the groom had always vacationed there, and then when he started dating his now wife, he took her all the time. So it's really important to them as a family, which is great. That is generally a decent reason to pick a location.
Absolutely.
Except...
Now, this location was on an island, which shall remain unnamed. It was on an island, and it was a very remote location on said island. Very, very remote. It was a 4.5-hour drive from the nearest airport on a very treacherous road.
And the airport, it's not like this is a massive
island airport.
Right? It's very tiny. So you're already asking your guests to travel a long distance to get to said island, which already doesn't have a ton because it's an island. And then on that island, you're taking them to the most remote location you could possibly find, where cell phone service is iffy at best, where restaurants are open every third Wednesday on a full moon.
And the restaurants are food trucks.
Right.
So
which is great.
Which is great, but one cannot show up at a food truck, and it's fine. And that means that there isn't anywhere to eat except for at the property itself.
And when a guest is spending, let's say, $600 to $800 on a flight, if not more.
It was more. It was absolutely. It was certainly in the thousands for a round trip.
Yeah, that's true.
And then the rooms.
And the rooms were so expensive.
Were not inexpensive.
Right. And then your only option to eat is a food truck.
Or the most expensive restaurant that you've ever encountered in your life.
Right. So those are all rough, but you know, it's gorgeous and it's beautiful and it meant things to them. But as a guest, that's tricky.
It was
tricky. It doesn't mean
tricky.
anything to the guests.
Yes. And also on top of that, like, you have to consider alternative factors too. It's not just about your guest convenience, but it's also about, again, we were on an island, right? So you have to consider the pragmatics. On this island, it was a tropical island, and in this particular part of the island, it rained tremendously all year round, every year.
Do you remember?
Yes, I remember. That's why I'm talking about it.
Oh, God, it rained so much.
There was like a huge tropical storm.
Huge.
Which is
the road was closed.
But also, it's not unusual for this area.
It's not.
It's not unusual that the one road in, which is also the one road out, got washed out in multiple places.
It was, vendors couldn't come in, guests couldn't come in, it was closed. And then as wedding planners, when clients come to us and say, oh my gosh, what do we do? Nothing.
Well, that's not true. We moved, so this was part of what makes it really challenging when you're picking your location. Like, we had set the expectation, as we do with all of our clients, that if and when there's inclement weather, we have to have a plan B. And so our plan B, of course, was to move the welcome or the rehearsal dinner inside, because they didn't want to purchase a tent for it, which is totally fine. And there was an indoor location that was absolutely beautiful, all open air, completely gorgeous. They were livid. Well,
they were livid because that's not what they wanted. But also, when I say there's nothing we can do, we need that vendor to get here. There's nothing we can do about that. There's not one thing we can do about that. The road is closed. The vendor was already coming early and coming a day early and all the things. And so I guess that's part of it, too, to consider when looking at a location and looking at someplace that's really remote. What is your budget? Because if you have unlimited funds and you can pay for that photographer to be there 3 days early just in case,
right?
Amazing, great. The road washes out. Doesn't matter. Your photographer's already there. But if you don't have the budget to just spend for your photographer to be there for 3 days for no reason, then you have them coming the day of your wedding, and if the road washes out,
you're doomed. Or you have to be flexible and go, don't worry about it. We'll use the in-house music, or we'll use a Bose speaker, or whatever it might be. But that is something to consider. Consider who you are as people and as planners in your own lives. Consider who your parents are or the other people that are paying for or helping to organize the event. And if that's going to be something that they're comfortable with, that they can go with the flow on, rock on. That's fantastic. Let's do it. We are going to set you up for success, as will any other seasoned destination wedding planner is going to set you up for success to the best of their ability in a remote location. But if that's not you, don't go there. Don't go there.
There's plenty of other destination locations that are not remote, that are gorgeous and beautiful, and have tons of culture, tons of history, whatever, that aren't remote, that aren't a one road in and out situation. And especially consider your guest size, right? It's not a big deal if it's 5 guests trying to get in and out. It's another thing when it's 50.
Right.
Right. And you have an uncle who's never left home before and can't figure out the roads. Like, that is a whole other thing that you just want to be aware of.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
I think, and tell me if you think differently, that would have been a perfect honeymoon location for them.
Absolutely. And sometimes those places exist. Sometimes those places exist that they could be both a great wedding location and a great honeymoon location. And sometimes there's one that's a great wedding location, and yet you would never want a honeymoon there. It's not romantic enough. It's not secluded enough. It's not all the things. Right. And there's other places that are great honeymoon locations that maybe we don't need to bring 60 people there.
Yeah.
Maybe we just don't.
And quite frankly, if you wanted to bring 60 people there, on that island, you can day trip that. It is a well-known spot to spend the whole day with whomever. Generally, if it's just a small amount of people, it's one car. But you can say, hey, we suggest a day trip out to this remote location. Here are the spots we would suggest we're going. Come join us if you want. So if you want those guests to have that experience, they get to also then choose whether or not they're willing to drive 4 hours on a very windy road. If you're car sick like me, you might say no. But you get to make that choice. And if that's not what you want to do, then you have plenty of other options because you're on the main part of the island where there's other things to do.
That's absolutely right.
So if you want your guest to experience something that's important to you, you can have it as an option without making it a requirement.
Yes, absolutely. So those are kind of that's our condensed little podcast version of how do you do a destination wedding? How do you just do it? The first thing that you do is hire someone that knows how to do it. That's a destination wedding planner. Hire a destination wedding planner. Hopefully that has a partnership with a travel planner. Those are 2 different jobs. You need 2 different people for it, or at least 2 different firms. Yeah. The second is pick the right destination. If you're working with a sensational planner and travel planner, guess what? They're going to help you pick the right location. Yeah. But keep these things in mind as you're looking at the different destinations for a destination wedding, because it is going to dramatically impact the overall experience of the event for you and your guests.
Yeah, exactly right.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
I hope that helped. I hope that gives you a little bit of advice and guidance. Check back in with us and we'll have a couple more tips and tales for you next time. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave your questions below for future podcast topics. Subscribe, like, and let us know your favorite tip from this video. Until next time, let's keep making wedding dreams come true together. Bye for now.